Greetings, gentle viewers. I hope you are doing well. You're just in time for a story called Maleficent. You see, I was just reminded the other day that there is a sequel to the Maleficent film from 2014. A sequel in production right now, at this moment. They're working on it. After a quick Google search, I learned that filming has already wrapped on this sequel, which features returning stars Angelina Jolie and Elle Fanning as Aurora. Angelina, of course, portrays Maleficent, the so-called evil fairy from the Sleeping Beauty fairy tale. So I'm very excited and eagerly awaiting this movie. Sleeping Beauty was always my favorite of the Disney animated films. It's one of the first. It's a classic. That very first one, I believe, came out in the 50s. Like 1959, I believe, 1958, something like that. And it's just got a look to it. It's Technicolor, but the animation and overall production were just superb, beautiful. It's lovely. I love the story as well. It has always captured my imagination, and when they made the Maleficent film, I just really seized upon it. I went and saw it multiple times in the theater. You might say that I have an affinity for a character like Maleficent, someone who is essentially good, but through life circumstances, finds herself on the outside looking in, a sort of a fringe character, beautiful, powerful, intelligent, and of course the importance of those things is not necessarily in that order. Maleficent is just great, period. But she's also misunderstood, and at least in this version, in the film that they made, they like to explain where she came from and why she does the things she does, the terrible things she does. I'm not trying to condone her behavior, but in any event, I really loved that movie, and I thought the animation was gorgeous. The music by James Newton Howard was also lovely and wonderful, and if they do make a vinyl of that, I'll be sure to scoop it up. I do have the CD, which I don't have on hand to tap on or anything, but I did bring a pop vinyl figure, so it's vinyl after a fashion. Here we go. It's the Mistress of All Evil, Maleficent. This is the Maleficent as portrayed by Angelina Jolie in the Disney live-action film. A Hot Topic exclusive, but I of course found it after the fact on eBay. I didn't even know it existed until long after it had been vaulted, as it were. There were no more in the stores, so thank you, eBay. I'm using this cool raven's foot ring to tap with. I got this ring online. It's from a website called Lost Apostle Jewelry. I'll put a link down in the description of the video. It's made out of bronze. It's white bronze. I think I misspoke. It's a crow claw, not a raven's claw. There's a difference. This is a crow's foot. They modeled it on an actual found crow, a young one, and cast it in bronze. And, you know, the result is just lovely. It's got so much detail to it. I have an itch I need to scratch. There we go. So I have something else though. It's the novelization of Maleficent. On the back, Maleficent may be known as a wicked villainess, but she didn't start out that way. This was published in 2014 by Disney Press in New York and Los Angeles. It reads on the inside flap, Maleficent was a different sort of fairy. For one thing, she was raised by all the fair folk after her parents were killed. For another, she believed there had to be some good in everyone, even humans. Happy and spirited, Maleficent was beloved by all who knew her. That is, until she experienced the ultimate betrayal by a trusted friend. Enraged and embarking on a quest for vengeance, Maleficent must forge her own path in the world to make sense of it all. And while she learns to harness her great powers, the forces against her only grow stronger. The question is, who really is the evil one in this fairy tale? Let's find out. This was adapted by Elizabeth Rudnick, based on the screenplay by Linda Wolverton. Executive producers include Angelina Jolie, Don Hahn, Palak Patel, Matt Smith, and Sarah Bradshaw. It was produced by Joe Roth, and the movie was directed by Robert Stromberg. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, and it reads, this is the story of the fairy Maleficent, not the story you think you know, not the one that starts with a curse and ends with a dragon. No, this is what really happened, and while it may have a curse and a dragon, it has much more, for it is a story of lost love, found friendships, and, ultimately, the power of a single kiss. So there is a prologue in the Scottish Highlands. Late afternoon, sun filtered across a wide expanse of thick grass, turning the green blades golden. In the sky, clouds moved slowly, their unhurried movements mimicking the fluffy white sheep in the field below. Sitting on a nearby stone wall, a shepherd and his 4-year-old son kept watch over their flock. At their feet sat 2 collies, their eyes closed as they relaxed from their watchdog duties for a moment. This was the young boy's first trip to the pasture with his father. He had waited for this day forever, always the one left behind, while his brothers took the flocks farther and farther afield. But now it was his turn. He had run behind his father the whole way, trying not to scare the sheep when they finally found them at the back of one of the farthest fields. Then he had hooted and hollered, mimicking his father as best he could to make the furry creatures move on. With all the new experiences and all the running and yelling, the boy had worked up quite the appetite. Supper had been quickly devoured, and now he took a big bite of his sweet cake. Crumbs fell onto his lap as he enjoyed the treat. Noticing his father had placed his own treat on the ground next to him, the young boy cocked his head. "You don't want your sweet cake, Papa?" he asked. "I'm leaving it there for the fair folk," the shepherd answered, his weathered face serious. Wasting a treat? The young boy had never heard of such a thing. "Why?" he asked. Smiling at his son's inquisitive nature, the father answered, "To thank them for making the grass grow tall and helping the flowers bloom, to show that we mean them no harm." But that was not enough of an answer for the boy. He had more questions. "Why do they do that? What would we harm them for?" he asked, his tiny voice full of confusion. Before saying anything, the shepherd smoothed the dirt beneath him with his worn boot. The soles were brown with the earth of the fields, and the tips were faded. Times had been tough of late, with King Henry demanding more and more of their crops and sheep every year. Things like boots, hope, and dirt were what the farmer held on to tight now. They're part of nature. They care to the plants, the animals, even the air itself, he went on as he scooped up a handful of loose dirt and slowly made a soil wreath around the treat. But not all humans appreciate them. Some people attack their land, wanting to reap the benefits of all their natural treasures. Aye, there have been many pointless wars between greedy humans and the fair folk, and no matter how many times both sides strive for peace, we always seem to be on the brink of another. The shepherd looked into the distance wistfully. This was too much for the boy to handle. His father was talking gibberish whenever he said silly things. His mother would cuff him upside the head and send him out to the barn to clean the stalls. But since he couldn't do that to his own father, he just asked, "Why are you doing that with the dirt?" "It is a sign of respect," the father answered matter-of-factly. "We want the fair folk to know it is safe for them to eat it. We don't want them thinking we've tried to poison them. Fairies can be quite mean if they have provoked." Standing up, he whistled to the dogs and began to walk home. Behind him, the boy sat on the wall, his mind racing. He had never heard of mean fairies. Looking nervously over his shoulder, he scanned the large wall. Not satisfied that he wasn't being watched by mean fairies, he jumped off the stones. Then, uttering a soft cry, he raced after his father. When he was safely by his father's side, the boy let out a relieved sigh. He began to look around the fields, eager to catch sight of one of the fair folk. As they moved down the hill, herding the sheep toward their farmhouse, which was just a spot in the distance, the young boy peered up at the sky and down at the ground. Spotting something green on a nearby flower, he stopped and pointed it out to his father. "Is that one of the fair folk?" he asked, hopefully. The shepherd shook his head. "No," he answered, "that's a grasshopper." Pointing at another flower, the boy once again asked, "Is that one?" Once again, the shepherd shook his head. "No, that's a dragonfly," he said, realizing that until he gave his son more information, there would be many more questions. The shepherd added, Realizing that until he gave his son more information, there would be many more questions, the shepherd added, "Not all of the fair folk are small. Some are as big as we are. Some have wings and some don't, but they all have pointy ears." Reaching up, the boy rubbed his own ears. His eyes grew wide. "Papa," he shouted, "I think I'm one." Stifling a chuckle, the shepherd stopped and turned toward his son. "Let me see those ears," he said, gently examining the boy's head. "No, not pointy." Then he turned his son around. "And no wings either. You're just a boy." The son smiled, relieved. While he wanted to see one of the magical creatures, he definitely did not want to be one. And that's where I'm going to stop for now. We'll continue this story later, okay? Maleficent. Well, thank you very much for listening and joining me in story time. I have much more to say about Maleficent and the upcoming movie. We'll continue the story. I have some scholarly books as well, in which historians and artists chime in on both the Disney original and the fairy tale that preceded it, the written textual works, and then the Maleficent movie that was eventually made. Which this new movie, the sequel upcoming, I believe it's 2020 that is coming out, so we have a little wait, of which it's a part though. The sequel is going to be just another jewel in the fairy tale's crown, as it were. Well, that's all for now. This has been ASMR Val. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.